heard about this news story. It was kind of making me laugh, so I figured uh, we should take a look at it. But it seems like Mayor Eric Adams is already doing electoral fraud to, uh, in a desperate bid to get elected, I guess. So he needed to get a petition with, I think, 7,500 signatures to run as an independent for mayor in the fall. And people have discovered that a lot of the signatures on his petition were forged. Um, so I'll just read little excerpts from this article so we get an idea of what the heck this guy is up to. Um, says his reelection campaign submitted faked and fraudulent obtained petition signatures in his effort to secure a spot on the November ballot as an independent candidate. Gothamist, this publication, reviewed signatures submitted from across New York City and found people who said their names were forged, as well as people who said that they were deceived into signing the petitions. In at least 3 instances, the campaign turned in signatures from dead people. Lovely. Amazing. So yeah, he needed 7,500, and he's polling at like 10% because like most people in New York realize he's like a Trump asset at this point. He's like, because he was so corrupt, right? And then Biden launched an investigation into him, and then Trump cracked some kind of deal with them of, I'm gonna call off the investigation into your corruption, but you have to like do what I say, basically. So he's basically a Republican plant at this point, a Trump plant specifically. So he doesn't really have a good chance of winning, but I guess maybe he's praying for some kind of miracle. He's praying that all the other candidates fall into the sewer and are never seen from again. I don't know. Yeah, people said you guys should hire quality control measures, and the campaign rejected that. They don't need quality control. They don't need any quality or any control, clearly. The fraud uncovered by Gothamist was committed by at least 9 workers who together submitted more than 5,000 signatures. Oof. So it doesn't seem like it was just like a few bad actors. It feels like it was like a broad thing across the campaign. So they have to hire all these people to get signatures because nobody's gonna volunteer to get signatures for Eric Adams. So they hire these companies to do it, and it seems a little bit sketchy. So they did turn in 50,000, nearly 50,000 signatures, which was well more than the required 7,500, right? So chances are they probably maybe paid for at least 7,500 legitimate signatures, but we don't really know. Um, as it says down here, officials do not vet petitions. The Board of Elections is only required to certify whether a candidate submitted a sufficient number of signatures, but it does not verify their authenticity. So basically, a certain number of whatever hundreds of signatures were found to be fake, to be fraud, but we we don't really know how many of them are fraud exactly. We know it's at least in the hundreds. So it says that this person, Trejair Johnson, submitted at least 110 signatures from this apartment complex that were said to have been collected on April 29th and 30th. Despite multiple attempts, he could not be reached at his listed address or by phone. So there's a question at this point of like, are these people working for the Eric Adams campaign even real people? We don't know. We don't really know. It's unclear which of several contractors hired by the Adams campaign employed Johnson and many other signature gatherers. So we don't know. He hired, like, the Eric Adams hires these firms to collect signatures, and then the firms hire contractors, and nobody really knows like who's actually doing it and who's connected to who. So yeah, there 4 signers no longer even lived in the complex. 15 over 3 hours said their signatures had been forged. This person's like, my name is not even spelled correctly. That's great, wonderful. So there's similar patterns in a few different places. Again, it doesn't seem like this was just like a few bad apples in the campaign. It seems like it was, it seems like it was a pretty widespread practice in the campaign. Again, all of the fraudulent signatures from this Queen's apartment place were submitted by Robin Dorset, a campaign worker who submitted at least 150 signatures in total from Queens. Dorset could not be reached by phone or at a listed address. So it seems like these people are questionably real people. This one's kind of fucked up. This like 93-year-old woman was stunned to learn that her stepson signed the petition when her stepson died in 1997. It's so, how do they even get the guy's name? Like, what is going on? So they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to collect these petitions. There's such a massive difference between somebody who has to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably like $1 million total, just to collect signatures, versus somebody like Zoran, who actually just has volunteers and people willing to do it. You know what I mean? And even then, it's not like they're collecting signatures in legitimate ways. Not only are they making fraudulent signatures, but we can see some examples here of some of the strategies they use as well. Great. One of the people that they hired to collect signatures was charged with strangling and assaulting his girlfriend, Robert F. Kennedy staffer as well. That's lovely. So one of the techniques that they're using, a fraudulent signature gathering tactic in which collectors hid Kennedy's name by folding down the top of the petitions. Yeah, so they're denying that they do this. Even they acknowledge, though, that some signature collectors were not forthcoming when trying to get people to sign for Adams. Oh, really? A lot of people won't say Adams' name and just say it's to get an independent candidate on the ballot. Listen to this. I do remember being on the subway and someone coming up, and I was just told it was to get a candidate on the ballot, said Brooklyn resident Megan Oots, adding that she did not see Adams' name on the form. I collected signatures for Zoran. I definitely wouldn't have signed for Adams. He's a crook. So very shady practices. They're faking the names of people, and they're like going up and not saying it's for Adams, but like pressuring random people to sign stuff. Excellent. And there's a statute that says you can't literally pay people for signatures, but it says these companies offer bonuses for like not per signature, but for meeting like total quotas of signatures, right? It's almost like a little pyramid scheme or something. So all of this seems pretty damn sketchy, but unfortunately, there isn't really a mechanism in place to figure out exactly how much of these signatures were fraudulent and how they were frauded. I think it's very funny, though, that they're going around and they're not saying Adams' name. They're just like, hey, please sign this so an independent candidate can get on the ballot. Meanwhile, it's like the incredibly corrupt current mayor. Oh man, why not give up at that point? You know what I mean? Like, uh okay, so now we're gonna listen to Mr. Adams explain his side of this. To be fair, we're fair here. We make sure to consider all opinions, even the opinions of very corrupt eggheads. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
You have your opponents that come and do things to try to mess up your signatures. This is part of the business.
Defending his...
He immediately blames his opponents. I love it. Zoran himself snuck into our headquarters. He faked all those signatures. He snuck out. Really, we have to investigate Zoran over this fraud, is what I'm saying. Great. Thank you, Eric Adams. What a lovely person he is.
His campaign, Mayor Eric Adams brushed off a new report Friday from Gothamist and WNYC, which found the Adams campaign submitted forged signatures as part of the qualification process to appear on the November general election.
Dude is polling at 10%. We're like still months away from the election, and he's already doing electoral fraud. Like, what? What a legend!
Ballot.
We have an independent person that's coming in to look over all of the signatures.
To run for a second term in City Hall as an independent, Adams needed to submit 7,500 signatures from registered voters across the city. He turned in close to 50,000.
Even though he's the mayor, he's not automatically on the ballot.
Gothamist and WNYC reporters spent 2 weeks trying to track down New Yorkers whose names were signed to petitions in support of the Adams campaign. Writing in at least 3 instances, the campaign turned in signatures from dead people. The mayor blames political sabotage.
They would put dead people's names on. They would do all of these tricks. Everyone knows that.
They would do that. His opponents would do that. On his petition, his opponent stole his petition and they did all that bad stuff and then they gave it back.
Lawyer Jerry Goldfeder.
It's very, very rare for somebody to forge somebody else's signature.
While the city's Board of Elections certifies whether or not a
It's so
candidate
weird.
submits the required number of signatures, the BOE does not check the signatures for authenticity.
Only people who object to those petitions, opponents, might look at those petitions.
New York One has learned no objections were filed to the mayor's petitions. Still, an attorney for the Adams campaign tells us, quote, "We take any flag petition signatures seriously."
You know that when you're out in the street with volunteers, they sign the signatures. We know that those things happen.
City Hall contenders Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo both declined to respond to the report of forged petition signatures for the Adams campaign. Zohran Mamdani's campaign told New York One, "It's no wonder New Yorkers are losing faith in our democracy when, for this mayor, the law is merely a suggestion."
My God, it says so much that the other two weren't, the Republican and Cuomo, who's basically a Republican as well, weren't willing to call Eric Adams out because they want to like crack some kind of deal with him. And Zoran's the only one who's like, yeah, this is fraud. This doesn't seem good for democracy and whatnot.
Goldfeder points out, in serious cases where forged signatures are submitted,
and when it occurs, the candidate could be thrown off the ballot. It could even be referred to a district attorney or the U.S. attorney.
Ayana Harry, New York One.
I mean, what's hilarious is Zoran doesn't even have to collect signatures because his volunteer force is like 10 times the size of the number of signatures he would need. So it's like he doesn't even, not only does he not have to hire people to collect signatures for him, but he has enough volunteers that his volunteers alone are enough to sign more petitions than Eric Adams could get by paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to collect petitions from random people. I think this election's a bit of a wrap, yo. I think it's a little bit over. I don't... The other candidates are not looking good.